welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Quest, with me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by Spirit. I am very excited to share my gift with you and empower you to embrace your gift. So if you define yourself as a spiritual human being, then you've come to the right place. So prepare yourself now for an amazing journey where your soul will lead the way. Thank you for being here and welcome to a new episode of the Spiritual Quest podcast. Today, we're getting to know one of the world's most progressive and insightful lifestyle brand luminaries. Her mission is to help people feel beautiful and value themselves through her highly sought after Black Greek apparel brand, LNO Greek. She's battled with body image issues since childhood and wants people to know they're beautiful and should feel beautiful in their clothes. And being on a spiritual quest, you and I both know that beauty comes in various shades, shapes, and sizes. Arndreya Price is the founder of LNO Greek, where her brand helps men and women embody an expression of timeless style and is the go-to attire for successful fraternity and sorority members. And her wellness retreats give first-generation wealth creators an opportunity to travel in style and build high-value relationships. But before I welcome my next guest, I'd like to share one of her favorite affirmations. So just close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and center yourself within your heart. The truth is, I love and value myself. I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of Christ. Therefore, I am beautiful, confident, and more valuable than rubies. It's my pleasure to introduce the beautiful Arndreya Price. Welcome, Arndreya.
Hi, thank you for having me. Rebecca, the way you just said that affirmation, boy, I love the way you said it. You said it with all the power, all the honor. I love the way you quoted that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And to be honest, I'm really excited to speak with you because you have this amazing story that I want you to share of how you have been trusting God's plan and how you've reinvented your life. And I know there's so many women and men that are struggling after these 3 years that's been pandemic and all the shifts going on. And we need some inspiration and empowerment. And I know that you can give that to us. So I'm going to just ask you, could you please just share your story with us?
Sure. So my story begins with childhood. I will admit I definitely had an amazing childhood, but one of the things that I constantly battled with was my weight. It's funny because now that I look back at pictures, I really wasn't even that big, but
Mm.
everyone around me made me feel huge. And so I had a lot of body confidence issues, always feeling insecure, not feeling, my best. But the funny thing about it is, barely nobody even knew that I was having this internal battle about my body image because that's not what I would project to the world.
Mm.
Um, but I was always in comparison with people who were next to me, comparing my body to people. Um, I've been on fad diets, or I had been on fad diets for years and years and years, just trying to get centered and, well, trying to lose weight, not trying to get centered because I was, a kid, trying to lose weight, trying to look like the models in the magazines, which were obviously, now we're aware of this, but back then, people didn't really know about the airbrushing and all of this stuff. But now that the general public has access to that, we're very aware that that is not real. So trying to live up to an expectation that would not even be possible because it's not even possible with skinny models. So,
Right.
just battling through that. And what happened was I just came to a point in my life where I was like, no more of this. I am going to take control and charge of my life. I used to actually think that people would only like me for my size. And these thoughts are actually ridiculous and crazy. But these are the things that have been implanted based on society, based on my family. Um, I'm one of the larger people in my family. My mom is tiny, my dad is small. So they I was a little bit bigger, but again, not huge. So anyway,
May I ask you something, Andrea? I'm curious, how young were you when you started to be aware that you were, you looked at yourself as bigger than other people? Do
you
you
know,
remember?
probably around 5 years old.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's early. Yeah,
It's really early, and to think that I was trying to lose weight probably within maybe 5 to 8 years old is actually crazy.
it is. And just to, if you don't mind, I just want to share because I can relate. I, I used to feel fat as well when I was a young kid. And I would look at other people and I would see that, I would compare myself, of course. But the thing was, when I also look back at images, I wasn't that big. But I, then again, it was something in my mind that I would never be skinny enough or I wouldn't be good enough. And so I also struggle kind of with, eating too much. I kind of ate my emotions. So I
Hmm.
think a lot of people can relate to those struggles. And I also know after working as a spiritual coach for so many years and helping children and young adults that boys also struggle a lot in these times with eating and how the body issue, if you wish. So I just wanted to put that in there just to kind of bring everything together. And please continue your story.
Thank you for sharing that because I do mostly speak to women. So you are absolutely right. Men do also have image issues as well. But, going through relationships, you know, thinking that my love life was conditional upon my size, again, your mind, it plays so many tricks on you. If somebody loves you, they should love you unconditionally. And if they do not love you unconditionally, you are in the wrong relationship. So,
Oh, that is so right. But, to bring it into that, because unconditional love, that's hard. To be honest, let's be honest, Andrea, that we're raised with conditions. I mean, look around you. You have to look like that or you have to behave like that to be able to be lovable. And it's kind of hard to break free from all those limitations of what or conditions of what love really is. I guess when we get older, we kind of figure that out that, okay, so is this true love or what is true love? I think we'll have to start at what is true love. So why don't you take that and just go with that? What is true love for you? How did you discover true or unconditional love?
well, honestly, I discovered it with myself first. Loving myself and treating myself with love, honor, respect, and that I deserve. I set the standard on how you need to treat me.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah, I cannot, if I wouldn't do it for myself, or you need to see how I treat myself, and then you know how to treat me. If there are things that I wouldn't accept, I can't accept them from you either. So I'm very, what is the word, particular on how I allow people to love me. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm also speaking of friendships, mentorships, like they're all ships. It's not just about love. And I know a lot of the times we're just talking about, romantic love, but it's deeper than that.
Oh, yes. I love what you're saying because everything that goes on inside you, it's a reflection, it's a mirror. So that's what you attract in your life. That's what you see, that what takes up your time and space. And so it's so important to actually reconnect with that love and to be true to who you are and be that authentic and be the child of God. to allow that love, that unconditional love that is the gift to this planet, to humanity, to everyone, that brings us all into one, that unconditional love. Of course, it's hard, struggling with different conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know, how did you start breaking free from um, those conditions that you had as a child? What was your turning point, if you wish? Was it like an awakening, or was it God? What was it that made you change and look at yourself with love?
I think it was twofold. Um, the first part was, me just recognizing I was not honoring myself. And I will speak candidly because, that's what we're talking about, transparently. I don't think I was loving myself. I was allowing people to treat me, and I'm talking about love relationships, the way that I didn't deserve to be treated. And one day I literally just woke up. It probably happened over time, but one day I woke up and I just said, no more of this. I will no longer, I will always honor myself. So I just made a decision that I would not be sexually active, and that in order to, be with me, I needed to know that you were here for me, not for my body, not for anything that I could provide, that you needed to be here for me. And so that's kind of how it got started.
I like the way you're looking at it. I mean, you're protecting your sacred space. For me, I'm very, everything to me is energy, and the highest vibration of energy is God source. And so for me, it's kind of protecting that divine purity and being able, or be secure in that, and allowing that to kind of flourish and to learn how to love that part. Because to be honest, I didn't learn that. As you know, you watch your parents, and everyone has their own things, struggles that they're going through, and you're trying your best. But as a child, you're like a sponge, right? So you just absorb everything,
Hmm.
and you start modeling bad behavior, or behaviors that might not be bad, but do not kind of support that self-love. And learning self-care, I think growing up with my mother, it's like it was hard because it was a different time,
Hmm.
right? And so it's finding your path, or finding your way in that. How did God play a role for you?
So honestly, I felt convicted by God when I would have sex. I This is probably a little bit funny, but I would take a shower and I would never feel clean. Um, there were just different things that would play on the radio, and I would just feel it in my spirit that I had to release this part of me, that I had to stop being sexually active. Um, it was just a conviction from the Holy Spirit that I had to move, and I had to stop that part of my life because he was not pleased with it. And in the midst of it, I was just like, but this is kind of a part of my life. I didn't want to let it go. I won't lie. I'll be very honest. But I had to respect the Holy Spirit. He called for a while, but it took me a while to answer. But I will admit, once I answered God's call and stopped, my life changed for the better. And peace came upon me almost immediately.
Mm. But I have a question, because when you say that, do you feel that God was calling on you to sustain from sex until you had that self love taken care of? Just to make sure, what was it that you kind of heard in that interpretation of your communion with God?
That it must stop until marriage, not just until self-love, but until marriage.
Mm.
Hmm.
And so you went on your journey, and you made this, what would you call it, like sacred decision, and growing then and moving into what you do now, like helping men and women through, your work. I mean, you're doing not only spiritual work, but you're also a creator. You're a founder of um, Would you talk about your business?
Yes.
Would you please do that? Yeah.
I design clothing for women who are in sororities and black, specifically Divine Nine sororities, which are African American sororities. So I make sure that they feel beautiful. I make sure that they feel like, you see how I have, I'm not sure if you can see, but ruffle sleeves. Like, I love to just make sure you feel very beautiful in the clothes that you're in and in the skin that you are in. So it is very important to me to make sure the clothes exude what is on the inside, on the outside.
Oh, that's beautiful. So how did that come about? I mean, was that also like a divine intervention, or were you just called to do this?
Well, it's funny because my background is actually nothing close to this. My background is actually healthcare administration. So I worked on COVID response. I've done a number of things in the healthcare community, but I've always been creative. I've always been fashionable. Even when I was quote unquote heavy set, I've been fashionable. People have asked me, could I style them? All of these things. And at a point, I don't remember what the exact sticking point was. I was just like, I should turn this into a business. This is truly my passion. And when I saw or thought about how women feel when we get dressed up, I was like, these things are deeply intertwined. I mean, these things are completely together. The way you look, helps you feel better. So I was like, let me go ahead and get to designing and make something, that will help women feel beautiful and confident.
I like that. And the way you describe, women wanting to, to help them become confident and beautiful, I think it also like it start like us growing up, we were always looking at people outside ourselves, right? To see the beauty and starting to define what beautiful is for us,
Mhm.
and then finding what really beauty means to you, and then allowing that and to sharing that. I think that's passion. And I believe that when we start doing the things that make our heart kind of bubble with joy, and we come into that flow, that's when our creative powers really start flowing. And to me, I feel that when I connect with people like you, like when we're really speaking about being honest and truthful about who we are and how we choose to live our lives. I mean, we're on this huge planet. We have all different beliefs and how we define God and what our spiritual path is. But one thing is certain is that when we come together in joy and in purpose, bringing purpose to our life, that's when we really start, seeing that energy of oneness. That's when the power starts coming. And that's when I kind of get excited because I go, oh, women, or I call it the goddess of the feminine energy is coming out. And I mean, men have this power too. I mean, it's embracing your femininity. I mean, we have masculine energy, feminine energy, and coming together
Exactly.
in perfect union. It's just yay. I think the time now, I don't know if you would share your insight on this, but I feel that it's time for the feminine to really shine coming forward, the next years to come. What do you think about that? And especially when it comes to what you're designing, how do you feel about that?
So I definitely feel like women should, like, definitely own their feminine energy. I know a lot of times, you read these books, they talk about, oh, you have to be masculine and all of this stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that. I believe that there is power in femininity. There just is. There's beauty and power in our femininity, and we need to just address it. There's a way to get authority and respect with femininity. You do not have to be masculine. And not that masculine always means hard and rude. Femininity doesn't always mean meek and soft. So there are different
You're
levels
right.
to it. So people like put it in these like little boxes, but there's multiple levels of femininity and there are multiple levels of masculinity. Therefore, we need to honor and address our feminine energy and live in that energy.
Oh, I'm so happy when you speak because I truly believe this and I feel this because I've grown up with a lot of masculine energy. I, from an early age, was from my mother's point of view as well. I needed to be front and center. I had to have, elbows. I had to kind of stand up for myself, stand up for the right, and all that. And it was always that masculine drive that take your place, take it. It's not like uh, claiming it or just allowing the space to be you and be there, but I had to claim it. And it's kind of like that's the masculine part for me. And so I've been working on this actually after the shift and stuff, working on embracing my femininity because I really do love that part of me, but I've kind of excluded it. And I do love to dress up, but I wasn't good at it. So I actually made it a priority, if you wish, to start, you know, dressing a little more, feminine. And I really had to try it out because it wasn't normal for me. It was kind of foreign to start opening up for that energy. But when I did, oh wow, the sensuality of who I am and that's when I really started to connect with my authentic self, if you wish. Like that's when I could feel like the unconditional love was complete, more or less. I could tap into it in a more profound way than I've been able to do prior to that. And so this time, I'm thinking for you coming out saying that um, struggling with, eating disorder, not eating disorder, but just weight issues.
Mm-hmm.
And for me too, body images and all that. And just seeing that I've kind of neglected, push that part aside because I didn't feel feminine. And so I never thought I could own it because I didn't look the part. And so, of course, you grow into that, and I can laugh at that at this time. But even my children, I show them a picture of me from I was around 15 years old, and my girl now was 15, and she goes, "Is that you, Mom? You look like a tomboy." And I was like, "Yes, I was a tomboy. That was kind of how I was raised, right?" Everything else was weird. And she goes, "Oh, okay. You don't even look like you." And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't feeling as myself either." So it's been giving some great, opportunities to actually discuss what is feminine and to me and how they can embrace that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really enjoy, discovering or just trying to figure out what does feminine energy really means. And I'm talking to men as well as I'm saying this because I have a group of men that also is part of my membership group, and we're always talking about how to embrace that. And they can feel when we talk about that and how they meet their wives or their partners that things are shifting. The partners are becoming more in tune and more lovable, if you wish. They're like they want to be more. I'm looking for a word that I can't find in English, but they're more passionate, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
in their relationship again. So it's kind of refuels it. So what about you? How is your love life? May I ask that? And how when are you dating or what's your life?
Right now, I'm currently not dating. I'm building my business. I do not have time for dating. As I told you right now, you scheduled this for 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, and I am not in in the East Coast right now. Lots of traveling going on, and I've found myself. I feel whole, but right now, my baby is taking care of LNO Greek.
Oh, I so agree with you. Everything in its time, right? I
Mhm.
mean, right now that is your baby. That's what you're giving love to. That's what you're nurturing,
Mhm.
and it will flourish. It will grow. But share a little bit more about how it came about. I know we touched on the topic, but I would really love you to put it in a context where you feel, how trusting God in this, because I know starting a business is not easy
No.
and you struggle. So please share.
So actually, I got the calling to, start the business alone in I believe it was April of last year. And so I started the business, and many of your callers may not know, or not callers, your audience may not know, I actually ended up leaving my full time job. So I started the business in April. I had to do a lot of leg work while working on COVID until October. And in October, I fully launched my business. And thankfully, because I was very successful with my launch, I took some time off, some mental time off from work. And when I finished that time, I realized that's when the things started to connect, about the self-help, self-love, and the beauty, and all of the things kind of came together. And I realized that, I can leave my full-time job and serve the people God has called me to serve. Now, trusting God comes in because, leaving a six-figure job, I was what they would consider a young manager. I just got promoted to manager. Most managers are well over 40 in the government. I was in my younger 30s, and, that was kind of unheard of. So for me to leave, people were like, "Are you sure, Andrea? Like, did you hear God correctly?" I'm like, "I think I know his voice. I'm a
Yeah, I don't question God.
Yeah, like I know his voice, and I'm going to trust him in this walk." And so let me circle back. In December, I had a party, a Zoom party for some of my people who purchased from me, some of my customers. And one lady, I asked, I said, "How did you find me?" And this was confirmation for me. This was before I started my business. She told me I spoke life into her and that I helped her through a part of life that she would have not been able to get over if it wasn't for me. And in that moment, I had to close my camera because I just felt like I started crying because I'm like, I know that I am on the right path because this was when I was working on COVID. This was not when I had the business, but that's how she knew who I was. And she told me no matter what I do in life, she will always follow me. And my heart was just like, you know what, God, you are guiding me in the right place. And that was probably like the aha moment. I am going to do this full time.
Mm. So how did you come up with your kind of your mission statement, if you wish? You want to make people feel beautiful, and you make all these wonderful clothes, but how did you figure that that was your mission in life?
Because I had struggled so long with feeling beautiful. Now, I may have looked beautiful on the outside, meaning, the hair done, the nails done, all of that stuff. But I didn't feel what I was truly giving out to the world. I didn't feel all of that. I would, what they say, fake it until you make it type of confidence. It wasn't true confidence. But now I truly feel confident. And I will admit, I even feel confident when I don't look like the standard of beauty of the magazines. Because I know who I truly am, and I know what I have to offer. And I love my inner self and outer self regardless, because I give myself love and I'm not looking for the world to give me love. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They're looking for outside people to give them love. Even if we come down to Instagram and, social media, I've written in a book entitled Single to Marriage, and I talk about and it's written by Reverend Valerie Dupree. And in the book, in my excerpt, I talk about how social media, you know, it warps our mind. We look at social media, expect to get all of these likes. But first of all, even if you do get all of these likes, these people do not care about you. They don't love you. So it really doesn't matter. If the love is not inside, it's worthless love, because again, it's conditional. Because if you don't post that picture of you with if you post that picture with you without makeup, if you post that picture of you with your body covered, or if you post the picture where you're fat, trust me, those likes are not going to be there. So it's very conditional type of love.
You're so right. It is a really tough environment to grow up in right now. I mean, everything happens outside. I mean, everything happens through a screen, more or less.
Hmm.
And it's so easy to lose, your footing in life and just looking at everyone else being successful. And we know that on Instagram or whatever, most of it is just a facade. It's not the true, honest, authentic way of living. And what do you say to people? I know young adults, if you were going to give yourself some advice when you were young, what would be your advice? What compared to where you are today and how you look at your life? What would you say?
I honestly would tell myself, do not compare yourself. I feel like comparison, it's, I feel like it's the devil's number one tactic. I think it might be one of his number one tactics, because when you compare yourself, you can't focus on yourself because you're looking to the left and you're looking to the right. So you cannot focus on what is right in front of you. And, a lot of the times, if you think about a lot of celebrities, the thing that makes them cool or different is the fact that they are themselves. They are authentically themselves. Jim Carrey, very extra. A lot of these people are over the top. But if he was looking to his left and looking to his right to try to fit in, it
Mm.
wouldn't work. And he would not be who he is today. So it's just like, do not compare yourself, and you need to work on yourself, because, excuse me, you need to work on yourself and what God has called you to do, not what anybody else is doing. That's what I would tell myself.
So, how would you, for younger people, to connect with God? I mean, there's so many different ways of doing it, and there's so many different ways of looking at God. And we know this because we can look at the world today, and we can see that there's war going on, and there's different ways of looking at religious practices, and it's causing a lot of disturbance in the energy and defining what God really is. And I believe that personally, I am very careful of defining what God is. I found my God and I trust my God. And I know He's all loving. And I know that as long as I allow myself to be trusted in God, I will be guided to do what is the best for me and humanity, because it's all anchored within love. So what would you say to, younger people who's struggling to define their God and trusting in that God?
And so my number one source of God is the Bible. I would start right there. And, I'm not going to tell a teenager go through and read the whole Bible. I think, they're teenagers, right? Start with something simple like the Bible app. Start with something simple. They have different applications or different plans that you can look at in the Bible app. They have specific things for teens. They have things that talk about struggling with, knowing God, struggling with weight. I mean, they have an app for, I mean, not an app. They have a plan for every portion of almost anybody's life. So it's not just for teenagers or adults. They have things for, I believe, kids as well, but I know they have things for teenagers and adults to speak to every part of your life. Single women, single men, divorced men, the whole gamut of things. And so for me, that's where I started. One of my favorite verses in the Bible, is Matthew 17:20. And it talks about having the faith of a mustard seed. And if you believe that God can move a mountain from here to there, it can be moved. And that's kind of one of the principles of my life, to just have faith in God. Because if God brings you to a mountain, He will help you move the mountain, but you have to trust Him. And trusting Him means turning off the social media, turning off the television, turning off the radio. You can't have all of these things going into your mind. One of the things people tell me is, oh, I don't hear God. God doesn't speak to me. And my question to them is, well, have you given him an opportunity to speak to you? And, a lot.
That's
Yeah, go ahead.
You're right. I mean, it's actually that simple. That's what I say. You have to find stillness to listen. Do not get, distracted with all the noise in the world. You have to take your time and contemplate and pray. You have to do that.
Exactly. And, nowadays people can't even sit still for 5 minutes. It's actually, I don't, it's strange to me, but the reason you can't sit down without doing something is because then you have to listen to your inner self, and you don't like your inner self.
Oh, there we go. Then you have to start peeling the layers, right?
Yes, you have to start the work. And that's what's the hard part. And I can only speak to it because I absolutely know how it is. And it's so funny because I used to watch crime shows all the time. Like, that was one thing that I would come home, I would have it playing in the background. Now I can probably count on one hand how many times my TV has been turned on this year. And it's because I've had guests in my home, not because, I just turned on the TV. And I'm in a hotel right now. And I was like, where is the dining menu? He was like, ma'am, you don't see it on the TV? I'm like, I haven't turned it on. So let me turn it on to get the menu. But TV is not a part of my life anymore, because I need to hear the voice of God so he can guide me where I need to go and how I need to do it.
Oh, I like that. It's so important. I'm so glad you're saying this because we are just trained to be distracted all the time, and we're not able to tune into our inner ears that actually where we hear God, right? And so allowing God's eye to guide us and to see clearly, you really need to tune in and listen. And with all the distractions in the world, it's difficult. So, what is your recommendation? Like, look at me. I have two teenage girls, and they're looking. The youngest one on 15 just this summer had her confirmation in church,
Nice.
and so we had to decide whether she wanted to go to church and go through this confirmation, is what we call it in Norway, or if she wanted to go and do a more popular thing that teenagers do, which is, they go and get some other training. It has nothing to do with God. Is more humanity and trusting in, yeah, and respecting people. I guess I don't know what I don't want to put into words because I haven't looked into it as much, but being in tune and having children who's lived, of course, grown up with me, and I'm living and allowing myself to be guided by spirit, and I tune into God, and I wanted them to go and have that opportunity to go to church and meet others and have that experience. She chose actually to go. Both of my children chose to, it was a choice to go through the confirmation and kind of allow themselves to dive into the Bible and look into all this.
Mhm.
What would you say to people now in the world that it's not that popular anymore? I mean, they're so focused on what's popular out in the world. What would you say to get people to tune, or young adults to tune into God?
You know, I'm still trying to actually figure that portion out. I do not have kids. However, I do mentor people who are younger, but I'm still trying to figure that out. I feel like, like you said, your daughter had a choice. We all have a choice. And I don't necessarily agree with telling somebody what they should do, like giving them a prescriptive thing. Like you said, you gave your daughter an option as to what to do. I believe that if you guide your children into the Christian realm, they may go into the world. I did. I know I did. I know others who did, but they always end up coming back. So I think the important thing is to give them information, give them knowledge. And what they will do is they will store that knowledge in the back of their head. Now, what they act on, That's a whole nother story. However, it will remain in the back of their head and they will come back to it. And I'm a strong believer of that. So it's important for you to just tell your children or allow your children to seek, but instill that stuff about God into them.
I think that's so important, just to allow them to explore and to figure out their own path, but being that beacon of light and being that example of one that I always sit in stillness, I pray, and I never, they have a choice. I remember my youngest was struggling a little bit in school. It's a few years ago, and I said, "You're invited into I have my sacred little cave, as I call it. It's my sacred space." I say, "You're invited in, of course, always. You can come here, you can sit, and you can join me in as I sit in stillness and I pray, and I do my meditations. And because I always meditate to find the stillness before I can either say my affirmations or talk to God. I like to be in alignment so that I can be clear on the messages." And I would bring her in and she would just be in that space. And that space did something with her. The energy of that space, the
Mm.
God space, if you wish, just being and allowing herself to be in that space, it calmed her, it released. And I remember she woke one night and she had a nightmare, and I had been talking about the angels and how the angel had helped me. And I was seeing feathers all around because I was getting signs that they were with me. And I remember she woke up during the night and she was really, really scared. And she said the next day she was so proud. She came down and she goes, "Mama, I woke up. I was so afraid somebody was out to get me, but I just called on the angels and I could feel them around me. And I could walk from my bed to my sister's room." And she cuddled with her, but she said they were around me all the time. I could feel them. I could see them around me. And I just thought, well, thank God. I mean, thank God. I, just being that example and being open and honest about my experiences and inviting them in, free will, of course,
Mhm.
free will, but just showing them that you are protected, you are guided as long as you open yourself up to that guidance, right?
I love that.
And then you can experience that beauty, that wonderful energy of God that really just, how could I say that? When you talk about the love for God or the unconditional love, it's really, really hard to find words. I don't know if you have that problem. When I get into that space, I'm just, I can sense it, I can feel it, I get vulnerable. It's just, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's hard to vocalize, if you wish. So you have to kind of show it through your actions, and just remember that you are that channel for God. You're that instrument, right? And so
Mhm.
just trying to be that as you move along.
It it's
I'm
honestly,
sorry, I'm rambling.
no, as you're talking, I'm just thinking like a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know that you hear from God? How do you know? And, it's very hard for me to put in words. For me, God is not an audible voice, but for you, he could be. But for me, like you said, it's a more centering thing. And when I feel convicted by something, I know when it's me, because when it's me, it's usually not the kinder part, and I will be honest. But when it's God, I feel a sense of peace around me. And God he's still working on me. I'm not perfect and I don't claim to be perfect. Sometimes I am a little hard-headed, and sometimes God will use, and I'll say anybody, it doesn't have to be a minister. God can use anybody, I don't know. He can just use somebody walking down the street to confirm things for me. Like, it doesn't have to be this super holy thing. And sometimes, like I said, I'm hard-headed. So, God might have to tell me 2 or 3 times. There may be a commercial or an ad on the radio when I'm writing, and I'm like, oh, okay, God, this is what you were telling me. Or somebody may spark a conversation. I'm like, okay, God, you're telling me to do this. Okay, I hear you. So it's not always, people are looking for this, like, I don't know, like, holy moment where God is going to just shine down from the earth. I mean, from heaven to the earth. It's not always that deep. It's just being in silence, being in tune, and being aligned, and listening to him throughout the day. That's as simple as I can put it. I know, you have to figure out how God speaks to you by building a relationship with him. And I think that that's where people struggle because, the relationship doesn't happen overnight. So for instance, I like to use this example when people say God won't talk to them. Well, you're expecting God to come down and shine everything off of one prayer. But that's kind of crazy. That's like meeting a guy at a bar and asking him to marry you. You would think that's kind of crazy, right? So you have to build a relationship. You have to court, you have to date in order to get that, I guess, you to get that super divine relationship. So I think a lot of times people give up off of one prayer or one no. And sometimes God's no is not a no, it's just a not right now. But because you've only prayed one or two times, you don't know that because you're like, okay, well, it didn't happen, but and so now I'm not going to pray anymore. You've closed him down, and so you're not going to hear from him.
Oh, you're so right. And I call it the victim mode. When we humans go into victim mode, that's when you're out of alignment. You're stagnated in old patterns, in old beliefs, old stories, and it's time to shine that light and surrender. First of all, forgive yourself, forgive the people around you, and then surrender to that energy, surrender to God by allowing yourself to release what is keeping the energy blocked in your body so that you can really tune in and listen. Because first of all, if you want to really to be clear on what God is telling you, it really does help to calm the energy in the body so you don't have that stomach ache, you don't have that bad feeling, or the whatever is holding that physical body down that is feeling out of alignment. If you just surrender, if you give yourself that space to be aware of what's going on inside of you and forgiving and surrendering and letting go of that, you will find that stillness and you will hear God in anything that is in everything around you. I mean, to me, God is in everything. It's just how he's the creator. So if it's flowers or if it's whatever my eyes put, land on, it's, if I really tune into that and see the essence of that thing that I'm looking at, I always come down to God's source.
Mm-hmm.
Always. I mean, that's it. It's just how still are you or how conscious are you of your authentic self, that you are a child of God, that you have that spark, that you have that soul that is connected, that is part of the divine. I mean, it's just your state of awareness. And so allowing yourself to accept it and embody it. And it takes time. That's why we got a lifetime to do it, right?
Exactly.
And we need it because it's not easy. And I believe that we all, and no matter what title you have, even if you're the Pope, we all have stuff we have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we are here. That's my belief. And we're here to find what's right for us and trusting in God's divine plan or destiny, if some people want to call it destiny. Trust in the destiny of your life.
I agree. That's what my cell phone says. It says trust the process.
Ooh, I like that. It's so easy and so simple and spot on.
Yes.
So I love our conversation, but I just want to ask you if there's any advice that you have for our listeners in how they can trust God's plan and how to allow it to unfold. Could you say something about that?
So, trusting God's plan is to put yourself on the back burner. And when I say yourself, I mean your thoughts, your plans, all of the plans. Go listen to God, see what He's telling you, because God may have a completely different plan for your life. I know that these may be goals that you set out for yourself a long time ago, but allow God to be the author of your life. And that's honestly it.
Yeah, I love that. Can I say something? Because that actually addresses me also. Because when you're talking, I'm thinking about I've been on this journey. I've been an entrepreneur, spiritual entrepreneur for quite a bit. It's actually 15 years now. As I quit my job and I started as a spiritual coach, and I've been trained, and I do life between lives, and I've of course grown to do different things and work with people from around the world. And in about 3 years ago, I wanted to take it from traveling around to bringing it online, right? Because the pandemic and everything kind of stopped me from traveling. And I started to listening to other coaches and everything. I never done that before. I just listened to spirit, always guided by spirit. That's what I call this show, Spiritual Quest, always guided by spirit. And so I've always tuned into God, and I've listened and I've tuned, and I've been doing that because it kind of gets clarity in my mind that I have a pure intention for why I'm doing it. And then you hear everybody said, no, it's not to be successful. You need to know who, not why. And I said, well, and I started to, okay, who am I helping? Who am I serving? And I lost God in the process because it was like, well, you have to have this and that, and you have to have all of that. And I just felt so drained. And I was like, this is not what's going on. I'm losing all of what I've created. The flow, everything blocked. It was stagnated. It was awful. I didn't like what I was doing. I was drained. I was tired, all this. And I started, oh, I forgot God. I forgot my why.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple when I'm saying it, but you know what? Listening to everybody else, even though they're high profile, whatever, and millionaires or whatever, don't listen and tune in to what is inside you, what God is telling you, because I lost my why. So when I connected with my why and I said, well, God, how can I serve you through I forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, I completely forgot it. And then I reconnect and I said, well, I can never, or never is a strong word, but I will not allow myself to be taken off the focus of what's going on inside. I have to trust in the plan. I have to trust in God. I have to trust in the guidance. And when I decided that that was it, I just forgot my why.
Mm-hmm.
And that I am that channel. I could say to myself, well, you're a channel of love and you divine and you channel this and you're that. But the focus was on who, instead of that I could serve through my gifts,
Mm-hmm.
not the way I wanted, but the way God wanted.
Yes.
It's not like He's taking away my willpower, because that was my power. It's just that I found my power. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
I'm just having a hard time finding the words. I'm hoping it's coming through.
No, I definitely understand it. God is the only person or the only being, deity, that can guide you. We will misguide ourselves. We must trust God in the process.
Mm. So let's just trust in the process, right?
Mhm.
That's what you said, right? Trust in the process.
Yeah, but trusting in God, trusting in God. And so for me, as I stated, and I'll just restate this, turn off the noise so you
Mm,
can hear from God. That's
mm,
that's the closing
mm.
message, because you can't trust him if you can't hear him.
Oh, you're so right. Thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing your mission with us. It's been an honor.
Thank
And I just want to say to everyone listening or watching that if you want to check out her brand, LNO Greek, right? LNO Greek,
correct.
or wellness retreats. You have wellness retreats as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I will make sure that I'll have your contact information in the episode summary.
Okay.
Okay. So anyone who wants to come in contact with you, and you also offer guidance, right? Counseling or coaching.
Correct.
Yeah. So anybody who's an entrepreneur, spiritual entrepreneur, want to really trust in the divine guidance of God and need some assistance to get on track, then you're definitely the person to contact, right?
Most definitely. I will help you in that journey.
Thank you, Andrea, for sharing your mission with us. If you want to check out her brand LNO Greek or her wellness retreats, you'll find Arndreya's contact information in the episode description. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And remember now that when you sign up for the Spiritual Quest Newsflash, you'll receive bonus materials and invitations to live events. So make sure you'll join the conversation by visiting the Spiritual Quest podcast page. You'll find this link in the episode description as well. Sending you lots of love and light from me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by spirit.